When a woman loves you deeply but is pretending she doesn't, the first contradiction you'll notice is this. Her emotions intensify, yet her behavior becomes more restrained. This confuses most men because love is expected to look expressive, warm, and obvious. But for many women, deep emotional attachment triggers caution rather than openness. Love, when it becomes serious, is no longer just a feeling. It's a risk, and distance becomes the tool she uses to manage that risk. At this stage, her withdrawal is not emotional absence, it's emotional regulation. She has already crossed an internal line where your presence matters more than she wants it to. That realization is unsettling. It threatens her sense of control, her independence, and her emotional safety. So instead of moving closer, she pulls back slightly, not to lose you, but to steady herself. Psychologically, this is rooted in fear of vulnerability. To love deeply is to admit dependency, and dependency means exposure. She knows that once her feelings are visible, they can be judged, rejected, or mishandled. So she limits emotional expression. She becomes quieter, more measured, less reactive. She might stop initiating conversations as much, not because she doesn't want to talk to you, but because initiating feels like revealing, and revealing feels dangerous. You may notice that this emotional distance appears right after moments of closeness, a deep conversation, a shared laugh, a moment where the connection felt undeniable. Instead of leaning into it, she retreats. This is not coincidence. It's her nervous system responding to intensity. When emotions spike, self-protection activates. Her mind says, "This is becoming real, slow it down." There's also a philosophical tension at work here. Love challenges identity. When someone becomes important to you, you are no longer entirely self-contained. Another person now has the power to influence your inner world. For someone who values emotional control or has been hurt before, that loss of autonomy feels threatening. Distance restores the illusion of control. It allows her to feel like she is choosing, not being overtaken by emotion. What makes this especially confusing is that her distance is selective. She may pull back emotionally while still staying present in subtle ways. She remembers details, she checks in quietly, she reacts strongly to your absence but calmly to your presence. This creates mixed signals only if you look at behavior in isolation. When viewed psychologically, it's consistent. She is balancing desire with restraint. But men often make the mistake of responding to this distance with pressure or withdrawal. They ask for clarity too soon, or they assume disinterest and emotionally detach. Both responses confirm her fear that closeness leads to instability. What she actually needs in this moment is steadiness, not pursuit, not retreat, presence without pressure. When you remain grounded, calm, and self-respecting, you communicate something powerful, that love doesn't have to be chaotic, that emotions don't need to be rushed, that closeness with you is safe. Over time, this safety reduces her need to pretend. Emotional distance fades when fear fades. Here is the critical insight. Emotional withdrawal is often the shadow cast by deep love. It's not absence, it's containment. If you learn to recognize it, you stop chasing behavior and start understanding meaning. And the reflection to leave you with is this. When someone steps back as their feelings deepen, the real question isn't whether they care. It's whether you're strong enough to remain steady while they find the courage to stop pretending. When a woman loves you deeply but is pretending she doesn't, one of the most reliable places the truth reveals itself is not in what she says, but in what she cannot stop doing. Her behavior begins to orbit around you in quiet, restrained ways. She doesn't announce her feelings, she doesn't confess them, instead she manages them. And that management shows up through attention, presence, and emotional awareness that goes far beyond what the situation logically requires. She starts noticing you on a level that feels almost instinctive. Your mood changes don't go unseen, your silences don't go unnoticed. She senses when something is off before you explain it. This isn't coincidence, and it isn't politeness. It's emotional attunement. When someone loves you, their nervous system becomes tuned to yours. They pick up on micro shifts, tone, timing, energy that others miss completely, and even while she's pretending she doesn't care, her awareness betrays her. You'll notice that she remembers things you mentioned once, casually, without emphasis. Things you assumed disappeared into the air. Your preferences, your worries, your long-term goals, even the way you react under pressure. This kind of memory isn't intellectual, it's emotional. The human mind only stores details deeply when they're connected to meaning. Love creates meaning, and meaning sharpens attention. What makes this especially revealing is that she often downplays her own awareness. She'll say things like, You mentioned this before, as if it were nothing. Or she'll pretend her insight is accidental. But emotional attention isn't accidental, it's selective. And she's selecting you again and again, even while trying to convince herself and you that she isn't. There's also a deeper psychological reason behind this behavior. When someone loves deeply but feels unable or unwilling to express it openly, attention becomes a safe outlet. It allows closeness without exposure. She can stay connected to you without risking rejection. She can care without confessing. This is how love hides when it feels unsafe to be seen. Philosophically, this speaks to a larger truth about human connection. We reveal our values through what we attend to. Attention is not neutral. It is an expression of priority. And when she prioritizes your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your struggles, she is revealing that you occupy a significant place in her life, whether she admits it or not. You may also notice that she adjusts herself around you, not dramatically, but subtly. She chooses her words more carefully. She considers how her actions might affect you. She's emotionally considerate in a way that feels personal. That's another quiet sign of love. Indifference doesn't require self-monitoring. Care does. What's important here is not to mistake this attentiveness for friendliness or habit. There is a qualitative difference between casual interest and emotional investment. Casual interest fades when inconvenient. Emotional investment persists even when she's trying to suppress it, even when she's pretending, even when it costs her effort. And here's where many men go wrong. They dismiss this behavior because it doesn't look dramatic. They wait for bold signals and miss the steady ones. But love, especially restrained love, is rarely loud. It's consistent. It shows up quietly, repeatedly, and with intention. If you learn to recognize this pattern, you gain clarity. You stop relying solely on words and begin interpreting behavior. You understand that love often speaks in attention before it ever speaks in language. So reflect on this. When someone consistently sees you, your moods, your patterns, your inner life, without being asked, without needing credit, that is not neutrality. That is care under control. And the moment you learn to respect that truth is the moment you stop overlooking love that's been right in front of you all along. When a woman loves you deeply but is pretending she doesn't, one of the clearest places that truth reveals itself is in the way her attention sharpens around you. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, precisely. Love, when it's hidden, becomes observational. She watches more than she speaks. She notices more than she reveals. And this is where many men completely miss what's happening because they assume love announces itself. In reality, love often studies before it speaks. You'll notice she remembers things you barely remember saying, small details, offhand comments, a passing frustration you mentioned weeks ago, the way you prefer your coffee, the fact that you go quiet when you're overwhelmed. This isn't coincidence. It's selective attention. Psychologically, human beings do not store information equally. We remember what carries emotional weight. Her mind is prioritizing you, even while her behavior tries to remain neutral. What's important to understand here is that attention is not passive. It's an investment of mental energy. When someone tracks your emotional states, your habits, your patterns, they're emotionally involved. Love makes people attuned. It heightens sensitivity. She becomes aware of changes in your mood before you explain them. She notices when you're not yourself. She senses tension in your voice, this level of awe. Reness only develops when someone matters deeply. But because she's pretending she doesn't love you, she won't acknowledge this awareness openly. She may play it off as intuition, coincidence, or simple curiosity. She won't say, "I noticed you seem different today." She'll say, "You okay?" Casually, almost dismissively. Yet that question didn't come from nowhere. It came from attention that's been quietly focused on you for a long time. There's a philosophical depth to this that's worth reflecting on. Love is not only affection, it's orientation. When someone loves you, their inner world rearranges slightly to accommodate your presence. You become a reference point. Your emotions affect their emotional climate. Your struggles register internally. And when that love is hidden, it doesn't disappear. It becomes disciplined, controlled, redirected into observation instead of expression. This is why she may anticipate your needs without making a show of it. She checks in at the right moments. She offers support without being asked. She gives advice that fits your situation uncannily well. She might even warn you about decisions you're about to make, not because she wants control, but because she cares about your outcome. And care, real care, expresses itself through foresight. You'll also notice that she rarely forgets what matters to you, your goals, your fears, the things you're working toward. Even if she never brings them up directly, they shape how she interacts with you. She encourages you subtly. She believes in your potential quietly. This is one of the most overlooked expressions of love, when someone wants you to become more, not for their benefit, but because your growth matters to them. Why hide this? Because acknowledging that level of attention would mean admitting emotional involvement. And emotional involvement means vulnerability. It means risk. So shh. E chooses silence over exposure, observation over confession, presence over proclamation. If you're perceptive, you'll see the pattern clearly. Her words may stay guarded, but her awareness is constant. Her interest isn't loud, but it's precise, and precision is never accidental. So here's the reflection to carry with you. When someone notices the details of your inner world without asking permission, it's because you already live there. Love doesn't always say your name out loud, but it always knows where to find you. When a woman loves you deeply, but is pretending she doesn't, one of the most revealing places her feelings surface is through controlled, subtle jealousy. Not dramatic jealousy, not accusations, not emotional outbursts. Instead, it shows up quietly, almost invisibly, because she's trying to keep her emotions contained. And that restraint is exactly what makes it meaningful. Br. When someone truly doesn't care, there is no jealousy at all. Indifference is calm. It's neutral. Jealousy, however subtle, only appears when emotional attachment already exists. So if she reacts, internally or externally, to the idea of losing your attention, that reaction is evidence of emotional investment, even if she never admits it. You'll notice it first in small shifts. You mention another woman and her energy changes. She may go quiet. Her tone may flatten. She might suddenly seem distracted or less engaged. She won't challenge you directly because doing so would expose her feelings. Instead, she manages the emotion internally, and that internal struggle leaks out in pauses, shortened responses, or emotional distance that wasn't there moments before. Psychologically, this happens because jealousy forces a person to confront an uncomfortable truth. This person matters more to me than I want to admit. And if she's committed to hiding her feelings, that realization creates tension. She doesn't feel entitled to express jealousy because she hasn't declared interest. So she suppresses it. But suppression doesn't eliminate emotion, it only redirects it. Sometimes her jealousy appears as curiosity disguised as casual conversation. She asks questions that sound harmless. Who's she? How do you know her? Are you close? These aren't interrogations, they're assessments. She's trying to understand where she stands without revealing that it matters. She wants information, not confrontation. Knowledge gives her emotional control. But other times, jealousy emerges as comparison. She may casually mention other men showing interest in her, not to provoke you aggressively, but to rebalance the emotional dynamic. On a psychological level, she's checking something important. Do you care if someone else wants me? If you respond with indifference, she retreats. If you respond with interest or curiosity, she feels momentarily reassured, even if she never acknowledges why. There's also a deeper philosophical layer here. Jealousy is not about possession, it's about meaning. You feel jealous when something valuable feels threatened. So when she experiences jealousy around you, it means you occupy a meaningful place in her emotional world. Even if she never verbalizes love, her nervous system has already classified you as important. What's especially telling is how disciplined her jealousy is. She doesn't lash out, she doesn't demand explanations, she regulates herself. That self-control is often misread as emotional maturity or disinterest. In reality, it's emotional containment. She's carrying feelings she doesn't feel safe expressing yet, and here's where many men misinterpret the situation. They assume her withdrawal after jealousy means she's losing interest. But often, the opposite is true. She withdraws because the emotion felt too exposed. She needs space to regain composure, to convince herself she's still in control, to remind herself that she hasn't revealed too much. Understanding this changes how you respond. If you react by provoking more jealousy or testing her emotionally, you create pressure. Pressure makes her retreat further. But if you respond with steadiness, neither flaunting attention nor apologizing for it, you create safety, and safety is what allows hidden love to slowly surface. So here's the reflection to leave with you. Quiet jealousy is not weakness. It's proof of emotional depth under control. When you notice it, don't exploit it. Respect it. Because the woman who controls her jealousy is often the one who feels the most and is waiting to see if you're steady enough to deserve it. When a woman loves you deeply but is pretending she doesn't, one of the most reliable places her feelings reveal themselves is through quiet, consistent investment, not dramatic declarations, not obvious romance, but effort that shows up in small, repeatable ways. This is where many men fail to look because they're trained to search for loud signals. But real emotional attachment often hides in responsibility, care, and presence. You'll notice that she shows up for you in moments where she doesn't have to. She checks in when you're tired. She remembers when you're under pressure. She supports your ambitions even when they don't benefit her directly. These actions may look ordinary on the surface, but psychologically, they are not. Human beings do not invest emotional energy into people they are indifferent toward. Investment is always a reflection of value. What's important to understand is that when a woman is hiding love, she cannot turn off her instinct to care. Love expresses itself as concern. It expresses itself as consistency. It expresses itself as a desire to contribute to your well-being. So even if she's pretending to be emotionally detached, she still finds ways to be useful, supportive, and present in your life. That contradiction between her words and her behavior is the clue. From a psychological standpoint, this kind of indirect investment is a strategy of emotional safety. By helping rather than confessing, she can stay close without exposing herself fully. By supporting rather than declaring, she avoids rejection while still expressing attachment. This allows her to participate in your life without risking the vulnerability that comes with saying, "I love you" or "I want you." You may notice that she encourages your growth. She pushes you toward better habits. She reminds you of your potential. She believes in you when you're uncertain. This is not casual interest. This is alignment. When someone is emotionally bonded to you, they don't just want your attention, they want your evolution. They want to see you become stronger, more confident, more capable. That desire is rooted in deep emotional connection. Another sign of hidden love through investment is reliability. She becomes someone you can count on. She follows through. She doesn't disappear when things are inconvenient. And importantly, she does this without demanding credit. She doesn't say, "Look what I did for you." She doesn't keep score, because love, when hidden, often expresses itself as quiet service rather than visible sacrifice. There is also a philosophical truth here that's worth reflecting on. We reveal who matters to us by what we are willing to carry. When she carries emotional weight for you, your stress, your concerns, your victories, she's already emotionally involved, whether she admits it or not. Love is responsibility taken voluntarily, and she is taking responsibility for your emotional reality in subtle ways. Men often overlook this because they're focused on attraction as excitement, but attachment looks different. Attachment looks like consistency. It looks like patience. It looks like showing up when there's nothing to gain. And when a woman is pretending she doesn't love you, this is often the only channel through which her true feelings are allowed to flow. The danger for you is misinterpreting this investment as friendliness or kindness. Kindness can be random. Investment is patterned. It repeats. It deepens over time. And it becomes more precise. She doesn't just help. She helps you in ways that matter specifically to your life. If you're paying attention, you'll realize something important. She is already acting like someone who cares deeply. She just hasn't allowed herself to say it yet. So here's the reflection to leave you with. Love doesn't always announce itself with words. It often reveals itself through responsibility quietly taken. Pay attention to who invests in you when they don't have to. That's where the truth usually lives. When a woman loves you deeply but pretends she doesn't, one of the most revealing things she will do is test you, quietly, subtly, and often without even realizing she's doing it. These tests are not games. They are not manipulation. They are emotional safety checks. When feelings run deep, the fear of being hurt runs just as deep. So before she allows herself to fall openly, she needs to know whether you are emotionally stable enough to hold what she's feeling. You'll notice these tests don't look dramatic. They show up as small moments of uncertainty. She might delay replying to a message she normally would answer quickly. She might pull back slightly after a deep conversation. She might say something mildly challenging or teasing, and watch how you respond. What she's observing isn't your words, it's your emotional regulation. Can you remain calm when things aren't perfectly clear? Can you hold your composure without becoming anxious, needy, or reactive? Psychologically, this is rooted in a very simple truth: love requires trust, and trust requires evidence. Words are cheap, intentions can be faked, but consistency under pressure cannot. When she creates small disruptions, she's seeing whether your behavior remains grounded or collapses under uncertainty. If you become demanding, insecure, or emotionally volatile, it confirms her fear that revealing her love would cost her emotional safety. She may also test your boundaries. This often looks like subtle disagreement or pushing back on something you say, not because she wants conflict, but because she wants to know if you have a stable sense of self. A man who immediately backs down to please her feels unsafe. A man who becomes defensive feels unsafe. What she's looking for is someone who can stand calmly in his position while still respecting hers. That balance signals emotional maturity. Another common test is inconsistency. One day she's warm, open, deeply present. The next day she's reserved, distant, harder to read. This emotional fluctuation isn't cruelty, it's caution. She's checking whether your sense of worth depends on her mood. If your confidence disappears when she pulls back, she learns that you're emotionally dependent, and emotional dependency feels heavy, not secure, from a deeper philosophical perspective. These tests are about responsibility. Love is not just a feeling, it's a responsibility toward another person's emotional world. She is asking, without words, if I give you my heart, will you handle it with care? And the only way to answer that question is through behavior over time. This is why reacting correctly to these tests matters so much. The correct response is not to chase, accuse, or over-explain. It's steadiness, calm presence, emotional discipline. You don't punish her distance, and you don't beg for closeness. You continue showing up as the same grounded person regardless of the emotional weather. When she sees that you are consistent, when your tone doesn't change, your respect doesn't disappear, and your self-worth remains intact, something powerful happens. Her nervous system relaxes. The fear that made her hide begins to dissolve. She realizes she doesn't have to protect herself from you, and once that fear fades, pretense becomes unnecessary. This is where hidden love starts becoming visible, not through dramatic confessions, but through gradual openness, more honesty, more emotional availability, less testing, because the tests have been passed. Here's the truth most men never hear. A woman tests hardest when she cares the most. The depth of her testing often reflects the depth of her feelings. And if you can remain calm where others panic, steady where others chase, and grounded where others react, you become the man she no longer needs to hide from. So reflect on this. When uncertainty appears, don't ask how to control the situation. Ask whether you can remain solid within it. Because the man who stays steady under emotional pressure is the man love finally feels safe revealing itself to.